Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Tour webinar program. I'm Emma from the Small Business Saturday team, and today we're talking about how you can nail those Meta or Facebook ads with the lovely Michaela Parker, who is the founder of Wild Social and has some great insight for us today. Hi, Michaela.
Hi, nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you. Do get involved in the chat, say hello, let us know where you're from in the country. Oh, and also if you've got any snow today, we've got a very small amount here in Manchester. So if you have got some more, I think down south there's quite a lot more. So do let us know. If you've got some questions, pop them in the Q&A box at the bottom and I will ask Michaela those at the end. These sessions will also be recorded. So if you miss anything, don't worry, you can catch up later on. Big thank you to BT for partnering with us once again on these webinars and making it possible and being part of the Tour 2024. I will hand it over to you now, Michaela, and I will see you at the end for some questions.
Brilliant. Thank you, Emma. Hello, everybody. Lovely to be here. As I just said, I am really excited to be here, and I do have snow today. We've got a good 3 inches, I reckon. So I've had a lovely school run this morning, traipsing through the snow. So yeah, I think the Midlands and sort of from the Yorkshire Midlands towards down south have all had it. So yeah, it's really exciting. Definitely marking the start of the Christmas season, isn't it? So anyway, before I start, I just thought I'd do a little intro to who I am and why I am here. So I'm Michaela. As Emma said, I run a business called Wild Social. You can find me on Instagram, all the usual socials at Wild Social UK. I am a marketing consultant. I started my business in 2017. I was in marketing before that, but then I had babies and it just wasn't working for me, working for someone else. So I decided to do some training and set myself up a little business, and it has just snowballed, no pun intended, from there. And today I've gone through the motions. I started off with social media management in terms of like organic stuff. So I did a lot of Instagram, a lot of Facebook, a lot of Twitter. But things have evolved since then, and I now focus a lot of my efforts on Pinterest marketing and Facebook and Instagram ads as well, which actually Meta ads forms probably sort of 60%, 70% of my workload at the moment. Yeah, so I've been doing those two things. I've been niched down into those two things since about 2021. When we went into lockdown, I had a little bit more time on my hands, so did some extra training courses and things in those two areas, and I've been doing them ever since. So really exciting, and yeah, so that is me. I'm also a mom, yeah, of two kids. One is 10 today and one is 6. So, and I'm based in the Midlands in Nottingham. So let's talk a little bit about Meta ads. Okay, so the reason I wanted to do this talk today, and when I proposed this, the guys at Small Business Saturday were like, yes, this is what we need to do. I actually did this talk at an event I was at a few months ago, and it went down a treat. So I hope you find this useful. One of the things that I get asked the most often when I say to people that I run Meta ads for businesses is it even worth doing if you don't have loads of money to spend? Like, is there any point? As we know, we've got huge businesses out there spending thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds every month advertising on Meta platforms, so Facebook and Instagram. You can't do ads on Threads yet, but I'm sure it's coming as it's part of the Meta suite. So I'm sure I'll be doing those at some point. But is there any point if you don't have thousands of pounds? And it is worth doing, but there are just some things that you need to focus on and some things that you need to consider when you're building your ad campaigns that you might need to do a little bit differently and consider a little bit more as a small business running ads to try and get in front of your audiences. How it works when you run ads, you put money behind your campaigns and they are served to your audience. But if you've got a teeny tiny budget and you're trying to get people to buy something, then it's going to cost a bit more because you're sort of in an auction and there's lots of other people vying for that ad space on people's news feeds. So you've got to sort of really consider how you go about it. So today, the way that I've structured this talk is there are 5 specific things that you need to think about and consider when you're building your meta ad campaigns as a small business with a limited budget, so that you can squeeze as much out of that budget and get the most success. Okay, so let's kick off with the first one. The first consideration and thing that you can do to squeeze as much out of that budget is to run campaigns that keep people on the Meta platforms. So when you're building a campaign, the very first thing you have to do is decide what your objective is. So the first thing you will have to sort of tick a box to say what you want the ad to achieve. Okay, so there are various things. So you can run brand awareness ads, which tend to be things like reach campaigns. So you tell Meta that you want to reach as many people in your audience that just to tell them you exist. Okay, so you might just be starting up and you just want to get your name out there in amongst your sort of audience. Maybe you're a parenting, you've got a parent audience. You may sell a parenting product or a baby and children's item that you want to tell people about, and you can run a reach campaign that will be to your Instagram profile. For example, if you do a lot of activity and content organically on your Instagram, you can send people to your Instagram profile. That's a Meta platform, so that's going to be a more reasonably priced thing to do than it would be to send people to a website, because it's harder to get people to click off onto a website than it is to get them to keep them on the platform that you're advertising on. The other reason is because Meta want to keep you on Meta, they don't want you clicking off to another website, because then you might not come straight back and look at more Instagram stuff or more Facebook things. So they want to keep you on platform. So it's actually cheaper to run ads that keep you on those platforms than it is to run ads sending people off onto a random website. Okay, so the other types, you can do traffic campaigns. So traffic campaigns do send traffic off to somewhere else, so they are going to be more expensive. So it would be better to run a brand awareness campaign to your Instagram page, for example, than it would be to do a traffic campaign to a website. It's just the way it works. It will cost you less money and you'll get better and more people seeing your ads. Okay. When you're looking at running ads as well, like the way it works is you put in your ad creative, your brilliant copy, you build an audience out. We'll talk a bit more about audiences a little bit later, but you build out an audience, and Meta then has to find that audience and show your ad, and they have to find the people that will be most likely to do the action that you're telling them you want them to do. So if you're telling them you just want them to, maybe you're running an engagement campaign, you just want a specific post to get some engagement, get some chat going. You're not nurturing an audience, you want to get people talking about your product or what you're posting about. It's going to be easier for them to find people that will just add a comment and like a post. They're still going to be within your audience, but it'll be easier and cheaper for them to find those people than it would be for them to find people that will click an ad, look at a website, and then like click through a checkout process and buy a product. That is a lot of actions you're asking them to do. So it costs more money to get sales through ads than it does to get engagement or brand awareness. Okay, so running campaigns that keep people on the Meta platform. So there's follow and like campaigns. Event responses campaigns are also a really great one. They are where, say if you're running an event, if it's a non-ticketed event, even better, you need to build that event out in Facebook, and you can run an ad campaign that sends people to that event. The minute they click that they're interested in going, or that they're going to go to an event on the Facebook page, every time you post anything on that event page, they will get a notification saying that this thing was posted. They will also get reminders about your event. So the action of the ad is to get them to click that they're going or they're interested in going. But then you've got them then, and every time you then post, you will get reminders sent to the people that have responded. So event responses I've had a lot of success with over the years. They're a really great one. If there's any way you can sort of work those, they are a fabulous way to get started with ads. Engagement ads, as we've mentioned, are also great. Okay, so here we go. So profile views, event responses, engagement campaigns, top tip. Just because they're easier and cheaper to reach people does not mean they are less valuable, okay? They will still fall, the people that you're reaching will still fall within your target audience. It doesn't mean that just because you're running a profile view campaign, it's just going to send it out to random people. They're still going to be within that audience that you build. But it's just because you're keeping them on platform, it costs less money because it's asking them to do a smaller action than it is sending them off onto a website. Okay, so number 2, focusing on your best sellers. Now, this is a bit of a funny one because when I talk to people about ads, the first thing that when I say, okay, what do you want to achieve? They will often say sales, but what they'll often want to do is sales of less popular products because they want to push things that aren't maybe selling as well within their product range. And you would think that that would be a good decision. Off the top of your head, you would think, okay, that's a good plan. However, if you have a very small budget and you want to do some advertising, but you haven't got a budget big enough to focus on lots of different products, then it is the better idea is to focus on things that already sell well organically. So if you've got a product that sells really well, for whether or not you understand why, it might be that it's a product that people just somehow really want. It might be that it's got really great product photography on the pages compared to some of your other stuff. It might be that there's just something about it that people love and resonate with. Try running a campaign selling that, because once you get people onto your website and they buy the best sellers, you've got them then, and they might then browse the other stuff and come across the lesser known items. I've put here, push these things rather than trying to polish the head, because actually it's true. Like, if you've got a product that isn't selling well organically, it's really hard to sell it through ads, because there is always going to be a reason why it doesn't sell well organically, okay? You need to be pushing the things that do sell well, because then you'll get a better ROI on your ads. If you're trying to sell something that doesn't sell as well, Facebook ads or Instagram ads is not magically going to make it attractive to your audience. There is still, whatever it might be the photography, it might be that it's just not as an attractive a product, it's not as well needed by your audience. There is going to be some reason, whether or not you understand what it is, that people aren't buying it. Okay, so then you may get a few sales, but it's not going to perform as well as if you do focus on your best sellers. And like I say, once people get your best sellers and they love it, they'll come back to your website and they'll browse the other stuff, and they may then, as a residual thing from your ads, come back and buy the other stuff. But I would absolutely spend your money pushing the stuff that is popular already to new audiences, because don't forget, your audiences that you build out as part of your ad campaign are going to attract new people in that don't already know about you. And then once you sell your best stuff to them, they're impressed by it, they might come on and leave you great reviews. Whereas if you sell something that's just not as attractive, that may not happen, and then they may not come back to buy the best stuff. Okay. Sorry, just going to take a second to just make sure I've covered everything on that point. Yeah, we're all good. Okay. So the third thing that we need to think about to stretch that budget as far as possible is to consider the length of your ads campaign. Okay, so when I work with a brand, I will ask them whether they want to do continuous ads. So some of my clients do ads year round. They keep the campaigns running, and it's a constant sort of testing process. We work out what works best, and we use that again and again with different messaging and things like that. But some people, especially smaller businesses, have a specific campaign in mind that they want to run for a specific length of time. So it might be around this time of year that they may want to do Facebook ads for a specific event, or they may want to do a campaign around Black Friday, or for a sale of a winter or something like that, but they've only got a small budget. Now, the minimum amount that you should be spending on a campaign is £12 to £15 per day per audience. Okay, so if you're running a campaign to, let's say, sell a product, or let's talk about events. So say if you're running a Christmas market and you have, it's a gifting sort of like a craft fair type thing, like with lots of things, lots of different stalls, and you may have 2 different angles you want to put on your campaign. Okay, so you might have the sort of Christmas shopping angle. So you may be like, okay, come along to our event, you can get all your Christmas shopping done in one day or one weekend. And then you may also have some like family activities happening on the side alongside the shopping opportunities. You may have, live music, Santa might be there, you might have, wreath making or other stuff happening around the event, and you want to do an angle on that as well. But they may have slightly different audiences. So your shopping one might be a different audience. You might be looking to attract, art lovers, craft lovers, things like that. Your other stuff might be a more family audience, families that want to get out and do something Christmassy. Those are 2 different audiences. So you would need 2 different, you can only run one ad campaign. You can run different audiences, but your budget is set per audience. So if you're running 2 different audiences on one campaign, you would need 2 lots of the £12 to £15 to run your ads to. So your £12 to £15, you may come to me and you may say, okay, I've got £300 to put behind this campaign, and I've got 4 audiences I want to run it to, or that's very unlikely you'd have 4, but you might have 1 or 2. It would be what the first thing I'll do is I'll break down your total budget into how many days we can manage on the £12 to £15, and often that will be like 2 weeks. But the client will often say, well, I wanted to run it for like a month. Can I stretch that over? Can we run that for a month? I would rather run it for a shorter time with a decent budget than for a longer period with a smaller budget, because what will happen, what happens when you run an ad campaign? Okay, so you would never run an ad campaign with one ad. So your ad campaign is built of 3 levels. The first level is your campaign level, which is where you set your objectives. So you say event responses or engagement or whatever it might be. Then you've got your ad set level, which is your audience level. Then you've got your ad level. That's where you have your individual ads. So your different visuals, different pictures, creative and copy. I would never run just one. but I would run like 2 or 3 for an ad campaign, for a small ad campaign. Now, what happens when the ad starts running is you might have one person that's in your audience that will see your ad, okay, but they won't just see it once, they'll see it over and over again over a period of time, over the period of time that your ad campaign is running. Now, if you've just got 2 different visual ads and you're running it for a month, and you imagine how many times those people are going to see those 2 visuals, what happens after a period of time is your ads will slow down in performance, because there's something called ad fatigue sets in. So people get sick of seeing the same stuff and they'll stop clicking on it and they'll start saying, I don't want to see this ad anymore. You want to avoid that at all costs. So if you've got if you've got an ad campaign that's running for a whole month and you've only got a couple of 2 or 3 ads and you're running it for a short, like a small budget, it's going to push it out over and over again to those people. They'll see ad fatigue, but your budget really won't stretch to doing lots of edits. So it just doesn't work that well. So it's better to consolidate everything into a smaller period of time. Putting more budget behind it means that you will push it out to more people in that short space of time. But ad fatigue won't set in because there's not long enough of a time period for that to happen. So they won't get bored over a shorter period of time and you'll carry on getting the results. So it is much better to, you may think, oh, but it's not gonna be running as long, not as many people will see it, but actually it's the opposite. It's better to consolidate things. I've run a campaign for an event, a very popular Christmas event in Nottingham for the last 3 years. Not doing it this year, but I did it for 3 years before. But they have, the amount of people that we've attracted by running a campaign for 2 weeks on a very small budget has been mind-blowing. It's been amazing. They've had like huge crowds going up to this event, and it's worked a dream every single year. Yeah, so it does work well still, even running it for a smaller amount of time. Okay, so if you've got a budget under £400 a month, try shortening your campaign length. Don't try to stretch a small budget over too long. Take into account ad fatigue. So ad fatigue, yes, that is a really important thing to take into account. And I would always suggest having some backup visuals to swap in if you need to over the period of your campaign. You will get warnings coming up if people are seeing the ad too much. Meta is really good at sort of suggesting when you need to sort of do things. So they will say, like, you know, campaign is slowing down, you may need to put in some new ads, and then you can, if you've got some backup that you can then swap in, that will help. Okay, number 4, nailing down your audience. Now, we've talked quite a lot about audience over the period of this so far. So Meta ad campaigns, Meta Ads Manager is absolutely brilliant and incredible in how much you can do to niche your audience down, so nail down your audience and who you're trying to target with your ads. Now, we just talked about those 3 levels that an ad campaign is built up of. So that campaign level is the objective. The second level is your ad set level, which is your audience level, and that's where the budget's set. And then you've got your ad level at the bottom. So the middle of the sandwich is the ad set level. Now, this is where you can hone who you want to target your ads to. Now, there's 3 main kinds of ads audiences. The first one is a cold audience called an interest-based audience. And this is where you tell Meta, I want to target women between the ages of 35 and 50 that live in X area. So you can set it at UK, you can set it internationally, you can set it to a tiny town in the middle of your area if that's what you need to do. But it's really good how you can sort of niche it down. But then what you also can do on that type of audience, an interest-based audience, is you can add in interests and demographics and things like that to niche down who you're targeting. So you can do things like tell them that you want to say, let's use that example of the Christmas event again. If you want to attract people that enjoy art and crafts, you can put in things like art lovers, and it will come up with lots of options. You can select which ones are relevant. You can put in different types of crafts. You can put in people who like handmade items. You can put in people that are supportive of independent shopping and small businesses. You can also put in brands. So you can they have to be quite big brands, but you can put in, say if you know that your audience are kind of middle-class people that shop in Waitrose and John Lewis and Waterstones and things like that, you can put in people that are interested in these brands are the type of people that will come to this event. So you can layer up your audience like that. So what you end up with is having an audience that might be women that are between 35 and 50 that live in Nottinghamshire, and you can set radiuses on your location as well. So it might be that you might pinpoint the event location and then say, I want people that are a 20-mile radius of this. And they have to be interested in John Lewis, Waterstones, handmade items, painting, Christmas events, I don't know, like basically build it up like that. And then you can imagine like that's a really good sort of person. So what Facebook Meta will then do is they will target your ads at those people that fall into all of those things, so that you're then you're ideally reaching the right people. Now it's really important that you have a good think about this before you start building your ad. Okay, you might think that, well, I just want to reach as many people as possible, so I'm not going to do any of that interest stuff. I'm just going to reach women in Nottinghamshire of any age. But that will get you more reach, but it won't necessarily garner more success, because you're going to reach people that shop everywhere and are interested in they can be interested in anything. So they're not going to be the specific people you want, because they may see the ad, but whether they come to the event or not is unlikely if they're not really in your audience type. So it is more important to sort of niche down and nail down into who you really want to come and who you really want to reach. The second kind of audience in terms of meta ads is something called a lookalike audience. Now, these are really good if you have a sizable Instagram following or Facebook following for a start, because what you can then say to Meta is, I want to reach people that are like my Instagram audience. Okay, so say if you've grown an amazing audience on Instagram and they shop with you and they're really engaged, and you want to find more people like them but that don't already know about you. Okay, so you can tell Meta, I want to find people that are like these people. So that can work really well. You can also do lookalike audiences based on your email list as well. So if you've got a mailing list you've got set up and you send newsletters out regularly, or even if you don't send newsletters out regularly, but you've got a list, you can plug in your list. You just have to download it as a CSV file, upload it into Meta when you're building your audiences, and you can say, I want people like these people on my list. And then what Meta will do is how it matches them up is it looks at like information points of those people. So this person on the list, or who is in the Instagram following, browses these kinds of pages on Facebook and Instagram, they are this age, because obviously they know a lot about us, even though we might not like it. And they will match those data points, and they'll find people with similar data points and attract your ads to those people. Okay, so that's the second kind. The third kind of audience is something called a custom audience. So that is where you may or may not have heard of the Facebook pixel, or the meta pixel. This is a bit of code that you put on your website that will then track your website visitors, and you can then retarget your website visitors. So you might have an offer you want to give to people. You can set up a custom audience that is like website visitors in the past 30 days. It will match up to your website, pull in those that data, and then it will target your ads at people that have visited in the past 30 days. That's a really great thing. That's obviously a warm audience. The other two are cold audiences, but it's a really good one to do if you're building like a funnel with your ad campaigns. So if you are doing something where you say, if you've got a pair of shoes you want to put an ad out for, so you put this ad out for a pair of shoes to a cold audience saying, come look at this pair of shoes, they're really great. Obviously you wouldn't put any of that, but you know what I mean. And you send it out there to an interest-based audience. What you can then do is you can put some of your budget towards a retarget campaign, and then, because obviously if you're hitting a new person that's never heard of your brand before, it's very unlikely that they're going to click through, look at the shoes, and then immediately buy them. They'll click off, they'll go and look at Google reviews, they'll go and look at Facebook reviews, they'll research your company, they'll follow you on Instagram, they'll do all of this stuff, but they're very unlikely to buy them at first look. Okay, but then what you do is you build in a separate little campaign where you might say, okay, I want to retarget the people that have viewed these shoes and give them 10% off. So it's a little sweetener to try and push them over the line. And then all the people that have viewed them through the first ad will then get this offer, and then it might just persuade them to buy. Okay, so that's your third kind. So that's custom audiences. There's a lot more to say about custom audiences, but we haven't really got time today. So yeah, so that's 3 types of ads. But with your smaller budgets, I would definitely recommend giving interest-based ads a really good go, because there's so much you can do with them. You can take your time to build them. You can then save them so that it will remember them for next time. So you can also just play around with them and then just save it and then come back to it. So you can sort of spend a couple of hours building your audience out, but don't have to put the ads out there and then, sort of thing. So it's something you can do separate to actually building and sending out the campaigns. So, but yes, I would say, like, if you spend time considering who your audience is, so use things as well. If you're not sure like who it is that you need to target through your ads, look at your organic social media analytics, because you can get a lot of information about your audiences through those. Instagram analytics are brilliant for that. You can find out how old people are, where they are. You can also use Pinterest. If you've got a Pinterest business account, you get a lot of information about your audiences and what their interests are through Pinterest analytics. So spend some time looking at those things. Just make some notes about all of these elements, and then build your ad campaign audience. And you will, if you spend time nailing your audience down rather than just guessing and doing it really quickly as just a part of the ad campaign, you will have so much more success with your campaigns, whatever you want people to do for your campaigns, than if you just guess at it. Because hitting the right audiences and reaching the right people is the key thing, really, to having success with ads. Okay, and then the fifth and final one is about testing creative and learning lessons. Okay, so sorry, bear with me, I'm just going through my cards to get to number 5. Okay, so learning lessons along the way is a key part of any ads manager's job, really. A few people have said to me over the time that I've been doing this as my job, like, well, surely if you knew what you were doing, you wouldn't have to do any testing, but that's absolute nonsense. Because every single business that I work with has a different type of audience. They have a different kind of product. They have a different objective for their ads. They've got different visuals. Some have got really awful ones and we have to sort of try and make do and make them look great. Some have got amazing budgets to put behind product photography and things like that, but everybody's business is completely different, so you never really know what's going to work from day to day. It's all about testing. The other thing is, as you move through the year and different amounts of people are advertising at different times of year, like the news feeds get more crowded at certain times of year, less crowded at others, it just works differently. And like with organic social media, every time Instagram make a change, as we know, on organic Instagram, like it throws the algorithm off. So when you figure out what's working, right, and then they change something and it all stops working, so you have to learn again. It's exactly the same with ads. So the whole thing is this whole test, like the whole time. So when I talk about testing creative, like when I set up an ad campaign, I will never, like I said before, just do one visual with one set of copy, because that might be the complete wrong thing for that business. So I will always start with 2 or 3. So we may have a video, a plain image, and a plain image but with some text overlaid over the top. 3 types of different visual, okay, to start with. As we know, we all learn differently. Some of us are visual learners, some of us like to read things. So it would be very naive to just do one type of visual, one type of copy, and presume that's going to reach and resonate with every single person that sees that ad. Okay, so you want to try different things along the way. You will always then have a learning period when you set your ads live, so you should leave them alone, sit in your hands for at least a week. You may look at the campaign and think, oh my God, that one's not working at all. Should I just leave it? Should I just turn it off? Don't do anything for a week, because once you press the publish button and it goes live, Meta has to learn. It's called the learning period, and it has to basically figure out what this ad is, who needs to see it, and figure out where this audience is. Okay, so whilst that's in motion, things will sometimes be a bit slow, and things are in learning phase for different periods of time. Some go through it in the first day or 2. Some of them take about a week. So you should leave them for a little while first. But then once you've got through that week, you will look at the results and you might have one that's bombing, it's not doing well at all. So you would then turn that one off. And then you might have one that after a couple of weeks or a few days longer is absolutely like doing amazing. So what I would then do is try and replicate that kind of thing, but in a different way. So say if it's your text overlay one that's working really well, you might then create a couple of other text overlay ones with a different background image and then put those in as well. It's really good to spend the whole sort of time trying to tweak and refine what you're doing. Now, when I run campaigns for businesses over a longer period of time, it's much easier to do that and test than it is for a short campaign for something like an event. So with that, I would often start with more visuals so that you've got them all going at the same time. It doesn't mean that you're paying more for your ads if you start with more variations of your ads, because like I said earlier, it's the ad set level where your budget is set. So as long as they're all going to the same audience, you can have as many ad variations as you like, really. So if it's a shorter period of time that your campaign's going to be running for, then I would suggest starting with more variations, so then you can sort of whittle them down as the time goes on. That's the creative is always the thing that I will test first, because it's the thing that stops people scrolling in the first place. Your job as an ad person is to stop the scroll. Okay, so the first thing they're going to see that's going to stop that scroll is the visual. So I will always do that first. It's become a little bit different with testing text now, because you can add lots of text variations into your ads and see the results of them like at a really granular level. You didn't used to be able to do that, so it was a bit more of a like, okay, now we'll test the headline, now we'll test the primary text. But now it's easier to put all of those copy variations in to the beginning of the ad campaign. So testing visuals is the key thing, really. It allows you to spot trends as well that you can jump on in future ads. So say if you've got this event and you've set up this thing, and at the end you look at your results and you think, oh well, there's a definite trend there. The ones that I did that were just plain images did the best. The videos, the text overlay ones might have done the worst. So then next year when you run it again, you know not to do the text overlay ones and to do more of the plain images. So yeah, it's really good for spotting trends and learning for even things far ahead in the future. Okay, just read these. Yes, okay. Right, okay, I think it's time for questions, guys. That is the 5 points. So I hope you found that useful. There is a lot of comments going off in the chat, so I'm sure you have got a list.
I do have a list. Oh, thank you so much. And can I also just say, I absolutely loved your slides. They were so pretty.
Oh, thank you.
They were absolutely great. We do have quite a few questions, so I will dive straight in. One's actually just popped up in the chat, which is, can you explain the difference between boosting and an ad campaign? As I've had some reels and posts to do really well, and I would like to boost them.
Okay, boosting posts, I would not recommend. It is, so boosting posts is the Facebook version. Promoting posts, I think, is the Instagram version. But basically you don't get very many options on things like audience targeting, objectives. You don't get to actually create and tailor visuals and ad copy specifically for your ad. It's just taking a post that you've done and pushing it to reach more people. You do get some level of audience building, but ads manager gives you incredible levels of audience building. And as I said as part of the presentation, getting the audience right is the key thing. If you nail that and you've got some half decent visuals and stuff like that, like, you can do really well with ads. But with boosting and promoting, like, you get very limited levels of what you can do. So it tends to, they'll say, oh, boost it for £15 for or whatever, like, but I just think, like, if you can do it via Ads Manager, do it via Ads Manager, because that's what you can do with it is so much more. Like, there's so much more there.
And maybe like boosting, you might get a lot of views and it might kind of tick that vanity feeling of having lots of views, but those might not be customers because it might not be
Exactly. Yeah, if you're not hitting the right people, then there's no point doing it. Like I say, it has got better over the years of who you can target. It used to be absolutely terrible and you couldn't do barely anything in terms of audience targeting. So it has got a bit better, but I think if you've got money to spend, I would try and use it within Meta Ads Manager instead of by boosting.
Next question. Are you suggesting that spend that's less than £12 to £15 is not worth the spend?
Like I said, as one of the points, I would try and just take your total spend. So if you've got a spend of £100, if you try and think of it as a total spend that you're happy to spend, and then break it down as to how many days of 12 quid that you can do with that total, and run the ads for that. Rather, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying try and tweak your campaign to fit that. Like, if you've only got £20, it's probably not worth it. It's probably worth doing a boost, or, you know, instead. But if you've got like a chunk that you're happy to spend, try and just work out how many days at £12 a day you can do, and consider all of those other things. So doing a campaign that keeps people on Meta. So an event response the ones that I've worked on for very small businesses, for events, for example, or engagement, where they've just wanted to bring awareness to something. Like, if we run them or as engagement campaigns or event campaigns with a very small budget, you can still make a massive difference. But trying to think of it like in terms of a total first, and then breaking it down as to how many days you can manage at that small budget, makes a difference. And if you think it's too few days, then maybe consider not doing it. I would say you wouldn't want to run something for less than a week as well, because it takes that long to come out of that learning phase. So if you're not ever going to exit the learning phase, then there isn't any point really doing it. So yeah, your minimum that you want to be spending would be like £80 or something. Like, yeah. I hope that helps.
I'm sure it does. Would you suggest changing a campaign on a weekly basis if you're still selling the same service to the audience, but to keep it fresh to ensure they don't get bored?
So not necessarily weekly. So when I would set a campaign up, I would leave it at least a week. And even if it looks like it's doing really badly, just leave it. Because what can often happen is the minute you exit the learning phase, it just goes like this, like, and starts doing really well. And so if you're thinking, oh, I'll change it every week, then you're risking not seeing that upward tick. So I would say leave it at least a week, and then monitor it daily, just see what's happening. And if you see things starting to slow down in terms of results, then make some edits. But I wouldn't say like do it every single week, because you will start seeing things that work really well, and you want to keep them going, because once you exit the learning phase, and if they're doing really well, then just leave them. But you can switch off the ads that are performing less well, because what will then happen is it will push more of your budget towards the ones that are doing well. So, cool. But then after, what I tend to do is every month I will add in new creative. So if it's stuff that's going like running all the time, then I will sort of get to the new month, and then keep the ones that might be working well, you can keep in, maybe just create a copy or something, but then add in some new creative so that people don't get bored.
I think you may have just answered this one, but I'll ask it just in case. Celia's asked, is there too short of a time for an advert?
Yeah, so I would say, like, try not to do it for less than a week, because yeah, it's just not, there isn't any point. If you're not ever going to get out of that learning phase, then it just makes it difficult. Cool. So yeah, I'd say about a week.
What would you say is a good result for a Facebook campaign? What cost per result or statistic can we look for?
That's impossible to say, because it depends on so many things. So it depends on what type of campaign you're running. So like I was talking about and alluding to in the presentation, different objectives are different price points. So a conversion ad, for example, which is generally a sales ad or a lead ad, will cost more than an event response or an engagement or a brand awareness ad, because you're asking more of the person. So you're asking Meta to find you the people that will click the ad, browse the item, add it to their cart, go to checkout, go and put all their stuff in, and then get all the way through that process. It's harder for Meta to find those people. There's going to be less of them than there are people willing to click on an event and say they're interested in going, or to press like on a engagement ad or something. So the ads costs are different in terms of objective, but then it also matters what time of year it is. So at the moment, ads are sky high expensive because it is prime time, Black Friday, Christmas time. So it's everything. I would say if you don't need to advertise around this time of year, don't. Wait until January because things get a lot cheaper then. So it's very different at different times of year. But what also matters is people's, like, doing ads is not a magic bullet. It's not you putting 100 quid behind a campaign and then being like, oh, well, I'm obviously, because I'm putting this in, I'm going to make £300 off the back of it. That's not how it works. There has to be a lot of other factors in consideration. So your website has to be working well, so that like load times and things like that, your UX experience like needs to be on point so that it's easy for people to go through the processes you want them to go through. The visuals that you provide your ads manager with or that you are using for your ads need to be great because it has to stop that scroll. Your copy has to be good. Your call to actions have to be good. So I've worked with brands that are really good at all this stuff, and I've worked with brands that have really terrible websites. Then the ads don't perform and they're like, why is my ROI so high? And I'm like, because your website doesn't load, and so there's a million things that has to be taken into consideration before you can sort of say what a good ROAS is. So yeah, it's really one you can't answer. It's a sort of continuing process. Like as you go through, you learn about what works and how much things cost, and then you can try and challenge that and challenge yourself as you go through the process.
How much roughly do agencies charge to do this sort of thing if I was to outsource?
So I don't know about how much agencies charge, but they do tend to be a lot more than sort of freelancers. So my ads management costs are from around £500 a month. So I don't tend to work with like loads of small businesses on ads management because obviously that plus a budget is a lot of money, and the smaller businesses tend to be able to afford it less. Like, that's not being presumptuous, but it's what I've found over the years of doing this. So outsourcing is great if you can afford it, but you're looking at sort of minimum £500 a month for fees. Agencies do tend to be a lot more though.
And I guess with that as well, there's a lot of kind of upfront investment in explaining what you want, how you want it to look, what the kind of expectations are.
Yeah.
Whereas you currently kind of have that knowledge in your brain.
Yes, exactly. So the reason, like, I do mostly offer services around training with small businesses to try and get them to a place where they feel able to try it themselves, because then they're taking away that whole like fees element and they just have to have their budget. But yeah, it is if you can afford it and you can afford to outsource to someone that really knows what they're doing, then it's absolutely worth it, but it isn't the cheapest.
If you set up a campaign for 10 days, for example, and see a huge upturn after the 1 week learning, can you extend a campaign which is running longer than you had originally scheduled it for?
Yes, you can. Yeah. All of the elements of the build you can change. So you can go into your ad set level where your budget and schedule is, and you can just change the end date. You can also set, so when you're setting your budget and schedule, so you can either go with like a lifetime budget. So say if you'd had a budget of £200 for a campaign, you can put that in and it will spread that over the days of the campaign. Or you can set it at a daily budget, and then you can either start it on a date and set an end date, or you can just start it on a date and then monitor it and turn it off when you want to. So you don't have to set an end date, but if you do and you want to change it, you can just go in and extend it.
Would you say that ads can help have a positive impact on gaining followers?
Absolutely. It's always a residual result. You will always notice an uptick in followers because when you, even if you're running a traffic campaign, for example, that goes to your website, what people, so if you think from your perspective, if you are on Facebook or Instagram and you're targeted with an ad that goes on someone's website, I will most of the time, especially on Facebook, like click onto their Facebook page and check them out.
Yeah, so
And then if
true.
it's a brand that you like, you will like them. You'll put you know you will follow them or like their page. And yeah, with clients, it's always something I see. Even if we're not running, you can't run likes campaigns because it's not allowed, but you can run Instagram profile view campaigns. So yeah, even whatever we're running, people will often say to me, oh, and I've noticed my followers have gone up loads. And I'm like, well, that's just something that happens when you run the ad, run campaigns, because it's, yeah, people will go and check you out. So it always tends to happen.
If you would only run occasional ads, say 1 to 3 times per year for a week at a time, in your opinion, would this have a positive effect on social accounts or metadata? Quite a specific one.
Yeah, so if you're running just a few, then will it have a positive effect on, I mean, yeah, you're going to, depending on what you're trying to do with your ads, like it will have a positive effect, like we were just saying with followers, like people will click through and like check you out on your socials. So it's important. One thing I will say is, if you are running ads even sporadically like that, it is important to try and, because you can run ads without having like a really regular posting schedule on your organic feeds. So I have had a few people that have wanted to run them, but they don't really use the social media organically. So they haven't got like loads of Instagram posts going out every week or whatever. I would say it's important to try, if you're going to do ads, then to try and have some kind of like semi-regular presence on socials organically as well, because like I said, like people will go and check you out, look at your reviews on Facebook, like, you know, check out what you're posting, look at your stories, because people want to know that there's that whole know, like, trust thing before people will buy from you. So you want to be able to show them that you're a real company and that your stuff is great. And so, yeah, I would say that. But yeah, sporadic campaigns, like it's absolutely worth it. You will see success because it's not all depending on your organic stuff. But it does tie in nicely if you do have. I hope that answers that.
On the organic reach, another question. Does your organic reach drop off if you start to use ads?
I think this is something that people have said, but I think it's a myth. I don't think it's true. I don't know for sure. There's no sort of stats around it or whether, you know, but I really don't think that that's the case. And another thing people often say is that your reach is going down because they're trying to get you to advertise. And I don't think that's true either. I think it's just, they're two separate things. They obviously want you to advertise because they make money from it. But I don't think it's punished if you don't. I really don't. But like I say, I don't know for sure.
That's insider secrets, I reckon, that information. But
Yeah.
is there a cheapest time of year to run adverts? Maybe January or?
I mean, if you think of all the popular holidays when people run ads, just try and avoid them if you don't need to advertise at those times. So like, obviously this time of year is really expensive because you've got more, if you think of the amount of big brands that are vying for ad space and you're there with your tiny budget trying to vie for the same ad space, and yeah, like it's just much more difficult to reach people and much more difficult and much more expensive. Same goes like things like Valentine's Day, like it's not as expensive as this time of year, but like, you know, things like that, popular times for certain things. And also consider how people are using social media as well at certain times of the year. So I like things often go very slow and very quiet over the summer holidays because people are just not on their phones and their computers in the same way while they're off with the kids and they're on holiday and things like that. So you will often, things slow down a lot in school holiday times, especially over summer. But yeah, if you just, sorry, go on.
I was just thinking you could maybe use a hook that's not like a national, national holiday like Christmas, Valentine's Day, but is specific for your business. Like I know there's National Chocolate Day, which if you're a chocolate business, that could be a good day to run an ad.
Definitely.
Something.
Definitely. But yeah, in terms of times to avoid, just think of the popular things like that, avoid those. And think just, there's no like insider knowledge with this stuff. Like it's just kind of common sense, but I see it reflected in results. So like things like school holidays do affect the way people use social media, and obviously your ads are shown on social media. So if there's times when people are like, like the Christmas holidays really quiet, like in terms of like because people are trying to put their phones down, spend time with family, like they're not using socials in the same way as they are at other times of the year. So yeah, just trying to sort of just jotting down all of those times and trying to sort of work out times in between them that will work.
Fabulous. Oh, I'm very sorry, but that is all we've got time for today. But thank you so much, Michaela. It was such a wonderful session. Do you have any final words of wisdom before we go?
No, I just wanted to show you. So just in terms of my services, so I run training for small businesses, obviously like ads management, focus hours as well. If you want to, I will run a special offer on focus hours if you want to do any troubleshooting on specific things in terms of ads. Then just get in touch with me on, I'll just click onto the next slide and then you can see. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, I'm Wild Social UK. Just drop me a message and let me know that you have found me through this session, and we can have a chat. If you've got any questions that we've missed as well, just get in touch.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. If anybody hasn't jotted those down, be sure to take a screenshot so that you don't lose those. Thank you all for joining today, and I hope to see you again tomorrow at 11 a.m. Take care.
Amazing. Thank you.